You're listening to Arival audio recorded live at Arival Bangkok 2019 and distributed here by Tourpreneur. Unless somehow Korean, Thai, Indonesian, and Australian travelers all started traveling, behaving, and spending the exact same way, it's clear there's no single Asian market. This essential roundtable, moderated by Chetan Kapoor, co-founder and COO of Vedic, discusses the diverse trends shaping varied travel markets and traveler segments from across the region.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Donggun Lee, founder and CEO, My Real Trip. Taka Mitamura, Director, Global Communications and Business Initiatives, Veltra. Christian Suvarna, Senior Vice President, Business Development, Traveloka. And Deepak Tuli, Chief Business Officer, Experiences and Activity at Make My Trip. Good morning.
Morning.
Are you all awake? How was the party last night? A little shade under your eyes. No? All right. Speaking of a party, and Asians love to party, right? Could we start off with talking about who this Asian traveler is? And on the panel, we've got representatives from South Korea, Japan, Indonesia, and India. So there's a diverse flavor up on stage. So let's start with maybe the growing opportunities, the India and Indonesia. Those are the mysterious market, relatively speaking. So who is the Indonesian and the Indian traveler?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So we represent Southeast Asia, not just Indonesia. We operate in 7 countries today. And people like to think Southeast Asia as one market, but in effect, it's actually comprised of 11 countries, with each of the countries behaving a little bit differently. But in general, I think if you look at the Southeast Asian consumers, they generally like to do the tried and tested ones. So the likes of attractions, major attractions, and as well as major destination tours and excursions. But increasingly in our market, we see interesting demography, which is, for example, the Indonesian millennial. They have a few defining characteristics that we found quite interesting. One is that we really love Instagram. We really like to take photos and selfies. And that's the social existence crisis, I guess. It's very apparent in the Indonesian population in general. And then second one is we see food as not just a means to get yourself refueled, but it becomes an attraction by itself. So we don't know what we like more, Instagram or food, but perhaps Instagrammable food is what is the best. Yeah. And then the third one, I saw my colleagues from Korea and Japan here, we are perhaps a little bit more budget conscious as a market. We don't come from a Korean or Japanese GDP per capita. So if you are an operator trying to attract the Indonesian or Southeast Asian market, you have to know a little bit about all these trends and try to build it into your offering. Go to the cool coffee shops as opposed to just giving a lunchbox. Go into these Instagram spots and mention it properly in your content. I think that would be useful.
Deepak?
Yeah, I think Indonesian and Indians will quite be similar, but I'll give some data points as well. There are about 1.8 billion domestic trips and about 20 million international trips. And guess what? 50% of the people they spend in destination. So flight and hotels are just about 48, 52% they spend. And Indians love to shop. So out of that 50%, about 30% of their spends goes on shopping. So that could be a different way of looking at it. Obviously, attractions, more evolved travelers would go for food tours, which is quite similar. But these kind of trends are picking up, and we have the largest youth population in the world. So the average age of Indian traveler who are exploring new destinations, activities, and experiences are under 35. So that's another good way of looking at what can you build for these guys.
Okay. Donggun?
Yeah. South Koreans really love to travel abroad, I think, because there were 30 million travelers last year, outbound tours. That's huge number because that's 55% of South Korea's total population it is even bigger than Japan and India. So South Koreans really love to travel abroad because there are many supplies because there are 6 LCCs. There are already 6 LCC low-cost carriers, and there will be 3 more LCCs. So there will be 9 LCCs. So flight ticket price is extremely low. That's why South Koreans really love to travel, and it is even cheaper than domestic travel. So market is growing very fast. And few decades ago, South Koreans love to travel by using group package tour, but trend is changing very fast. Now 80% of tourists are using OTAs, and they are traveling with free independent travel. So that's the brief summary of South Korea's market landscape. Yeah.
Mm. And just before Taka-san, what about Indians? Is it mostly group still, or are they also getting in the FIT space, especially when it concerns in-destination experiences?
Yeah, now I think the trends are changing in India as well. Traditionally, completely a group market, but the way the airlines are now structuring their pricing, which are cheaper and once you book slightly in advance, and the same hotel pricing, I think people are moving towards this, especially the millennials and millennials, which are like want to transact online. Actually, they're big influencer on travel. By the way, if you now go and speak to the consumer, why are they buying online? Because they'll be referred by their kids, right? Who are on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and looking at where to travel, what to do.
All right.
So these are like very, very different from other countries.
Taka-san, the Japanese traveler.
Yes, so as for Japanese market, last year we had approximately 19 million people traveling abroad, so outbound travelers, and then that was plus 6% increase compared to the previous year. That was like a 3 years consecutive growth, average 5%. So in general, Japanese people are traveling more abroad, which is a good sign for us. And as for the type of the travelers, more and more FITs rather than group travelers. I think the latest figure is like less than 10% are actually booking group package guided tour. So almost 80% book. We call them FIT. They book package tour, which is only flights and hotel, and everything else is free. So we just call them, in a broad sense, FIT travelers, but we have 80%, and that's one of the reasons a company like us are growing. And the consumer behavior, I think Japanese travelers, we don't mind to spend more for the premium product, or if the experience is unique, so rather than just standard experience. I think the market is getting more mature, and people are well-traveled. So, they are willing to pay more for premium products.
And what kind of experiences are Japanese travelers looking for? Christian mentioned food tours, Instagrammable food for Indonesian. Deepak mentioned shopping for Indians. So what kind of in-destination experiences?
I think from my experience, Japanese travelers, they are now looking more into authentic experience. So, food, of course, and then also the people. You meet with a great local tour guide, great local people from the restaurant or from the attraction. This makes the experience more memorable. And then, of course, it's important to take pictures or to shop and buy something luxury, but it doesn't remain in your heart. So I think that Japanese people value most, and I can see that trend more and more these days.
Yeah. Jong-un, you've been one of the new generation OTAs focusing on experiences and in-destination piece. What are the criteria that you look into when you list the different experiences? If they are similar, why does one operator go on top of the other? Why does one feature the other does?
There are some companies who is charging for the listing, higher listing, so it is an advertisement model. but we don't do that. So basically, we are listing products based on the customers' review and feedback.
Okay.
So there are 500,000 reviews so far, travelers' reviews so far in my real trip. Okay. And based on that reviews, we are listing the products. So basically, the travel product customer loves show first. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Taka-san, how do you prioritize product? Because you've been in this business, the company's been in the business for what, 20 years?
Yes, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So how we prioritize? We are more like a curated website rather than platform. So what I mean is, we've been in the business for quite a long time, and then we started to learn what kind of product sells or appeals to our audience, Japanese market. And then we kind of co-develop the product with the tour operators. There is a standard product provided by the tour operator, our partners, local suppliers. And then we receive customers' feedback. Yeah, it's like he just mentioned. And then based on customer feedback, our customer support team and marketing team, we check all the customer reviews every day, every single day. We have like a couple of hundred reviews posted, and then we publish it, read everything and publish it manually. Mm-hmm. So based on this feedback, we communicate with our local partners, and then make improvement, make some changes, and then of course we change the way we promote the product on the website so that the customer don't have any misunderstandings about the product, and also about the culture. Of course, there's a cultural difference, and then misunderstandings. That is one of the biggest reasons when we have a negative feedback from the customer. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. And then as a result, we, like I said, co-develop the product, and then that goes to the top of the best-selling product. Yeah.
And Christian, Deepak, respective OTAs, the leader OTA in markets, experiences is a new category for both the OTAs. So considering you don't have the relative groundwork and the reviews that help these companies prioritize operators, relatively speaking, how do you look at prioritizing experiences, operators in that equation?
Yeah. So I think what they have mentioned, applies to us as well, by and large. But a few things that are, different to us is that before we would onboard a partner, we do a little bit of understanding, like know your partner type of exercise. Because we believe the current problem now is how do we establish trust to the consumers that they can buy these items and they can buy it and get the experience the way they have imagined it to be. So there's a little bit of homework that we do with the partners to know how long have you been operating, are you a registered entity or not, and sometimes we do send our mystery shoppers there too. And when we try to display it in our app, the space is limited. Of course, in addition to looking at analytics, what conversion do we see when people click in your product, just the basics and the reviews. We also typically would create a space that we reserve for partners or themes or topics or products that we want to push. We believe if we only rely on just analytics looking at the past transaction data, we will always be pushing the same products over and over again. But we have an interest, for example, to get all these specialized and more authentic tours to be picked up. And we want to create this little space so that you can be featured on there. But we want to make sure that you will also be able to service our customers better for the good of the industry, so that people can talk about it, that, hey, my discovery was great, my booking was great, my experience was great, so that I can actually now trust this and evangelize to my friends. And more people would know that there's another way of buying than the traditional way.
Hey, Chetan, I just want to jump in from the floor. One of the things that just struck me about the last day and a half is so many online travel agencies in this market. There's been so much growth. So if I'm sitting here as an operator, especially if I'm kind of new to the world of digital distribution, there's like 40, 50 of you guys in the market. I mean, do I have to do separate deals with each of you? Where do I start? What distinguishes each of you from everybody else in the market? I would just love, I don't know, help us make sense of the landscape and why we should work with you versus somebody else, or do we work with all of you, or do we work with a B2B player rather than working with each of you, individually?
Thanks for stealing my question.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think as far as we are concerned, we are already in this business for a while, and I think a lot of players are already working with us directly. My take from if I'm sitting on the other side, I will see if this is the core market for players like us. For example, if you are based out of Thailand, Singapore, Southeast Asia, if there is Disneyland out here. So I think for them, it's quite relevant to work directly with us. We'll have enough of demand for these destinations. If you're based out of India, then definitely it makes sense to work directly with us. There is no point going to the intermediary. But last couple of days, I've learned it's very, very difficult to independently work with everyone, and because the way the data structures are present, the way everybody sells activities is very, very different. There's no standardization, there's a standardization flight or there's standardization in hotels. So it becomes even difficult for us to kind of integrate with every supplier. So I think there's a great value looking at a middle channel manager or a distributional partner kind of a ecosystem in the whole world, which can actually help both sides, reducing efforts of kind of distributing on each other's platform.
So I think for me, if I were in the other side, ideally you would want to cast your net as wide as possible, work with as many people as you can. But if you are in a resource constrained position where operationally it becomes complex, then I suggest you do a very disciplined prioritization of who you work with. And the way to do that is to understand who's your captive market in your destination that you're serving. And usually for that captive market, there's one or maybe two a dominant player for that space. For us, we're a Southeast Asian player, so this is our home ground. And I think we are more than happy to work with you in whatever way or form. If we want to create a direct contract with you guys, we're happy. But other than that, we are through the distributors. We're also happy to cater to that.
Donggun?
Yep. As I mentioned before, now South Koreans really love to travel. So, their market size is very big, but they always prefer to book Korean-speaking guided tours because they are South Koreans. Of course, their language is Korean, although they always prefer to book Korean-speaking guided tours. So, if tour operators are interested in doing a service for South Korean travelers, then I think the market is very big enough. So it'll be a good choice to work with us.
I'd like to add one thing. Well, just simply OTA can add value to your business. Just because we know the market, we understand Japanese market, Korean market, Indonesian market, Indian market, and then unless you spend a lot of effort to understand the culture, behavior. We have marketing data. We have lots of. We're a Japanese company, for example, so we understand the market. So, like I said, we co-develop the product with you according to the customer's behavior and then what they like. We understand that. So. That's the biggest benefit to work with OTA.
And I think it's not just about the discovery of the product. People may think we're just a marketer as an OTA, but we go deep into the regions that we operate. In Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general, you cannot rely just on Visa and MasterCard or credit card. We go deep into the payment to enable people to actually transact online. If you want to try to target them yourself, then you have to go through these hoops and lengths to create bank transfers implementation, which we have already done for you. And so we offer you these assets, not just our consumer base that we have today, but also these enablement to make your booking seamless. And so, yeah, I think it's best if you try to figure out who are your biggest source markets.
How deeply are the OTAs involved in, beyond just the payment, actually bringing the seamless experience on destination? Because there are various experiences which still need you to go get physical tickets. How are you streamlining that process as the post-booking experience? Or are you involved with partners in making that happen?
Yes, we are involved. In fact, we do with a few partners in Indonesia. We try to innovate with them to create a seamless entry into the places. This is Indonesia and Southeast Asia. It's not like, except for Singapore. That's a different Southeast Asia. Most of the places are still very traditional, so we innovate in that way. And in post-sales perspective, we do also provide customer service in our local language. We speak English, in general, not as good as other countries in the world. And so they like the comfort of having to pick up the phone and have somebody who speaks in their local language. And then we engage with the suppliers directly in English. And that helps to give a type of confidence that, yes, I can book from here and I will be taken care of.
Yeah, that's also one of the challenges for us, because for Japanese market in particular, we only have like less than 20% people booking through online, and then other than that, they go to the travel agency or they book on the spot. So the key is, of course, we encourage them to book online and the pre-departure, of course, but also rather than trying to change customer behavior, we try to adapt to it. I think more and more customers, it's very similar, and an omnichannel kind of approach is necessary, because they search on Google, they go online with any device, and then they check all the tour details through social media, Instagram, and then they call us, they email us, they message us, and then they book with either website or mobile, and then they participate with mobile or paper voucher. So all the experience is getting
blurred.
Yeah,
but you mentioned that a lot of Japanese travelers are still booking with travel agents, right? So I would presume that they plan way in advance. How are the booking windows in the other markets?
Yeah. So basically, we are selling airline ticket, accommodations, and tours and activities. And tours and activities booking window is less than 2 days. South Koreans really love to book same-day booking and last-minute booking. And accommodations, in terms of accommodations, booking window is about 30 days, and airline ticket 60 days. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting less and less, but average 2 weeks. But like I said, it's seamless, like a non-stop
cycle.
Yes.
Yeah, same day to 3 days, most of the bookings.
60% on day 0, 12 hours is the cutoff for Indians. And we have about another 20% on day 1. So travel did just one. So about 80% last minute.
Wow. And mobile or desktop, quickly, we've got 10 seconds.
So 66% of our booking came from mobile.
Yeah. Less than half, actually, yes.
Majority mobile.
Mobile.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Donggun Lee, Taka Mitamura, Christian Suvarna, and Deepak Tuli.
We hope you enjoyed this session from Arival, the only event dedicated to creators and sellers of tours, activities, and attractions. Head to arivalevent.com to register for upcoming conferences around the globe. And for insights into the in-destination industry, head to arival.travel.